Okay, so hi Albert. We're doing this
Hello.
for the first time in a little experiment. Um, Albert's obviously working at home, and I'm working in the office alone today. And we just thought we'd have a quick chat and record it about annual leave and furloughing because it's such a hot topic and tricky question at the moment. And obviously, we both have our opinions on it, having done lots of reading and been on loads of webinars and things. So we'll just sort of see if it's any interest of people watching. So Albert, the main issue about annual leave appears to be in respect of whether employers can require their employees to take annual leave whilst on the furlough. And in particular, in respect of the bank holidays. So what do you think about it, Albert?
Um, I believe that employers can compel an employee annual leave while being furloughed. I think that for a number of reasons. Firstly, if they are not on furlough, an employer can generally ask and compel an employee to take holiday the year. So, for example, during Christmas office closure. The other reason is that employers can also ask employees not to take holiday.
You keep breaking up, Albert. You're like every
Oh,
other
sorry.
word. What it is? Are you touching something?
No, I'm not. My hands are still. Oh, is it? Should I say that again?
Yeah. Please say it again.
Closer. It's the other side. Too close. Probably is.
No, that's fine. We're catching like the first few words and then the end of your sentence.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Shall I start again?
You were saying about employers being able to compel employees to take holiday at Christmas, for example.
Yes. So that is a reason why I think that if staff have been furloughed, that during that same period, employers would, though it's not expressly stated, be able to compel their staff to take annual leave in the same manner. And the other reason why I think they can is that employers normally, in normal circumstances, can also ask their staff not to take holiday. So they can refuse it if the report comes in for business. They might have a first come, first served sort of system, or they may have a limit on a number of staff from a particular department at the same time. So because they can, in normal circumstances, both compel staff or refuse annual leave at a particular time, that right continues.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're referring to there is that under the working time regulations, employers can stipulate, can't they, that employees must take holiday at a particular time by giving at least double the notice of the time that they're off. And also in most employment contracts or holiday procedures, there is a requirement in there for them to take holiday at the employer's request. And as you say, the most typical one is things like a Christmas shutdown and that kind of thing. And one of the arguments that's being raised, I've read from a couple of barristers, is in respect of whether under the Working Time Directive, so from European law, whether the time is actually going to be used for what it's intended under the Working Time Directive, which is to have rest and relaxation. And I was reading one particular point of view, which was said that they would liken the furlough period to being like sick leave. So you can't compel an employee to take holiday during sick leave because they can't have a period of relaxation.
Apologies. That's not me.
Yeah, so they likened it to sick leave. What do you think about that? What do you think about that argument, Albert?
I can understand where that's coming from, because of course at the moment, if someone is being asked to take holiday, they can't really do anything because of the lockdown. But lockdown, I think, is actually separate to furlough. The idea of the concept of furlough is a temporary leave of absence, which employers now currently claim under the pension scheme for that salary, where they might otherwise be redundant or paid. But furlough itself doesn't actually cause them not being able to take that time off for rest and relaxation. It is the unfortunate situation, the lockdown of causing that. But I think it's also been perhaps slightly remedied by the fact that employees can now carry over the holiday in the following holiday years if they can't.
Yeah, well, that was the other argument that they were making as to why employers can't or shouldn't be able to allocate leave, is because there's this new requirement, or right, sorry, should I say, amendment, so that you can carry over leave for up to 2 years. And so they were sort of saying, well, if that was the intention of the government, then it would go in hand to say that employers can't compel employees to take holiday during a furlough period. And what do you think about that?
I think, well, as far as I understand, that's limited to statutory holiday.
Yeah, the first 4 weeks, yeah.
Weeks.
The 4 weeks set out by European law, isn't it? Not necessarily.
Yes. So if, for example, they are lucky enough to be granted perhaps more holiday than that, and that might otherwise be lost, they wouldn't necessarily have the right to carry that over. Under the new regulations for the next few years, they might otherwise lose that. Also, it doesn't necessarily stop the issues of having lots of staff carrying over holiday, which in itself will cause a bit of an admin problem for people. There will always, it's simply delaying perhaps the issue of all of your staff requesting holiday at the same time in the next holiday year. So although it is helpful, I still don't think necessarily would necessarily by having a complete ban on businesses not being able to compel staff to take holidays, to manage staff holidays. But I think they should have the right to do so. But of course, if they are using holiday, although you might not be able to do anything, they might be able to go on holiday or go to the beach, you will still be being paid your normal salary. In fact, you would be earning more for that day than you would otherwise.
Yeah, and so I suppose that's a good point to make, isn't it? That if you, as an employer, do decide to stipulate holidays taken during the furlough period, that you should be topping up the pay if you're not already paying the full amount. And I heard an interesting point about it, which I agree with, which is that if you're calculating the pay, if someone has irregular pay, you should do it based on the pre-furlough period average rather than the average in the last 52 weeks from when they take it, if that includes a part of the furlough period.
Well, I think that would be entirely fair, based on, their normal salary before this unprecedented shutdown.
Yeah. And one of the things that led me to think about this even further was a discussion with a HR professional about where half of their or part of their workforce are furloughed and part aren't. And what they've actually decided is to credit those people who are furloughed for their bank holidays, which they, there's obviously, this is the part of the debate, isn't it, is whether you need to do that. But that's a decision they've made internally, and that's fine. But I said, well, actually, what the people who are continuing to work then, in a way, are going to be worse off. And they are in the same situation. So this whole issue about the requirement to have rest and relaxation applies, I think, equally, if you're looking at it like that, to those people who continue to work, if you're going to have that argument. Because, yes, they have a break from work, but their break from work is exactly the same as the break that people who are furloughed are having, in that they can't do anything either because of the lockdown. So I would say if you're going to credit those people who are furloughed, you should also be crediting those that are continuing to work from an employee relations perspective, not necessarily from a legal perspective, of course.
No, absolutely. I think it's a good idea if you're keeping staff on who aren't being furloughed to think about ways that you might either incentivise them to agree to that. People will be anxious. They'll be, or they may be aggrieved that they are being asked to work when others aren't. And as you say, yes, if they're working and they just get the bank holiday off as normal, whereas those who aren't get paid it in full as normal, even though they're furloughed, and yes, you might have an extra day's holiday to be allowed to carry over, maybe, or something similar.
Yeah. And so I think the other thing I've been doing is looking at what the remedies are. So obviously this is uncharted waters. We don't know what's going to happen, and there's likely to be litigation and a case on it at some point in the distant future, and it's looking at what the risks are to employers. And so if you do stipulate that your employees are required to take some of the holiday during the furlough period and you top up their pay, what are the remedies?
Well, yes, quite. I mean, I don't know what the remedies would be. I mean, there may be. I think ultimately, the situation is about managing the relationship between the staff and the business. And so, I think it's going to be more of the trust and confidence in how the business does handle it, heavily and sympathetically, and use all of the support that there is for businesses, not necessarily just looking at the bottom line. What is the best way to retain staff that you had before it started, and to make sure that they are willing and able to return. But I think all the way through this, if they look at that reasonably, the risk of claims being brought by individuals, I think, is relatively low, and probably going to be sympathy and flexibility given to businesses who have to make terrible decisions. Really, they're very difficult decisions, from tribunals or judges. And I think that the tests of reasonableness and reasonable responses is likely to encompass, quite a lot, and be perhaps widened in these current circumstances.
Yeah. So on that, I think if an employer were to say, for example, you have to take all of your annual leave during the furlough period, so that when they come back from the furlough, there's no annual leave to take for the rest of the year, that, in my view, would certainly be unreasonable. And you're less likely to win sympathy with an employment tribunal if you do that. Not to mention the fact that you probably won't have any good quality staff left after that. But the other thing is if you look at it, as you say, quite well from a reasonable perspective, and what is reasonable to do, and how your staff will respond to that. Yeah, it's not just about the legal issues, is it? It's about the commercial and also employee relations, and making sure that you're looking after your staff. Because I think what employers have to remember is that before we went into this situation, one of the biggest problems that our clients have is actually finding good quality staff and retaining them. So, I don't think that situation is going to change considerably. Maybe in the short term, there might be a more abundance of candidates around, but in the longer term, we're still going to have that issue. And the way that you behave now and treat people now will have a huge impact on whether you can retain them and recruit in the future. So it is about the long term, not just thinking, short term.
Yeah, definitely. And also, actually, the flip side to that is how flexible staff are as well. I mean, I think if we are talking, and when I've been speaking with individuals about having been furloughed, about the actions that their employer are taking, there is, and there has to be flexibility, I think, on both sides, because it is entirely new. It is actually, if an individual staff member is flexible, then perhaps the business owner, the business will spot that and maybe reward them going forward. The idea of being retained and coming back is on both sides, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you're not flexible, and maybe I should take some holiday just for this period, I'll get paid a bit more. I might not be able to take this year go out anywhere. Well, you've still got the job at the end of it.
Absolutely. So we'll just sort of round up then. If I just do a summary,
Yeah.
I think we're sort of the view that if you did stipulate that employees had to take holiday during this time, that it would be fairly low risk, although that comes with a caveat that we don't know. Nobody knows the answer to that for sure. But it's more about looking at employee relations, having good quality staff and being reasonable when you're making those decisions. And obviously we can talk that through with you and give you a bit of a sense check, can't we, if you need to.
Yep. Every circumstance is different, so it's always worth having a chat with us. We can talk you through the options and as Alison said, what perhaps is best for that particular relationship.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Albert. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. That's all right.